everybody, and welcome to another edition of Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
I love it.
AKA Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters at CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And check out our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, also known as Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Jeez.
Where you can offer the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. And finally, check out our altar sleeves, also known as Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Man.
And you can support the show.
Evan's been practicing all day, and he's going to be damned if he doesn't get.
I will be
He's
damned.
going to be a Pokemon, and that's going to be the name that he just keeps repeating over and over and over again.
Right. Support the show by using the code Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
No, don't use that code.
Wait a minute. Use the code Magic Mike's. Sorry,
Yeah.
wrong code. At checkout for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves for the Magic Mike's crew at altersleeves.com/Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
No,
Wait,
it's
damn it.
nope.
Altersleeves.com/Magic Mike's. Who knew? I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
That was entirely worth the wait. Hello,
It was
everybody.
worth the wait.
Reuben
You
Presley.
can say that, but you can't say TSS Aloe.
Well, I did not spend 2 days trying to say
It's true.
TSS.
You just need to look in the mirror and say OCAT.
We got tagged. We got so many tags the minute that card came out of you and Saffron Olive. Like your mentions just went to trash of like we need this now.
Yep. So I think the card is neat and hilarious, and I
Yeah.
too got a kick out of it. And I studied multiple videos for various amounts of time to figure out how to say that ridiculous
I am
word.
extremely proud of you, and it is a little embarrassing for me to say that I'm the one of the three of us that can't do it yet.
Wow.
Gotta keep trying, buddy.
I'm on. Listen, you can tell by the beautiful art behind me that I'm not in my own home.
That's true.
I'm visiting my parents.
That's true.
And I wasn't going to just say Asmoranda rights.
Nope, there's no D in there. Nope.
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar de Bressler de Caldacar. I wasn't going to say that over and over on the plane. So.
Yeah, I've been sounding
That'll
like a
get you on
crazy
the
person.
no-fly list for sure. Just.
Right. He's speaking in tongues in row 12.
Like, if you mess it up, you'll accidentally summon a demon. Like, that's
Yeah.
what happens.
and if you say it right, you'll also summon a demon.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, we kick it off with our first pick and giveaway. Get your chance at a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat, but subscribe first to get 2 chances to win. And don't forget our raid at the end of the show to support a member of the community. Enter your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we might raid tonight. Do note our awesome sponsors has Mythic Frames, aka them from Alter Sleeves. That Kickstarter is still up and running. And oops, no, it actually finished. Fantastic.
It has been funded.
Wow.
I believe they're at the point now where you have to unlock certain styles of sleeves. So certain styles have been unlocked. Others are waiting on votes to do so. So if you are somebody who contributed to this, please make sure that you are using your points or using your votes to unlock your frames. I'm a big fan of the Graveyard Gang frames, obviously. I'm also a big fan of the Goblin Blades frames. So if either of those two have not been unlocked, I recommend those.
Very, very nice. All right. Well, congratulations to them for that awesome Kickstarter. And now we get to move on here to our first pick, also known as our preview card for hashtag free preview. Hashtag thank you Wizards for the
Hashtag
exclusive
sponsor.
free preview.
Totally free preview. We were not paid to do this.
We were not. Now, one of the things that they noted this today when they spoiled a whole bunch of really cool things that would go in a certain deck.
Yeah.
Erin, could you tell us a little bit about sort of what they were spoiling today and what that means for our preview?
Yeah, so Wizards has made it clear that one of the purposes of Modern Horizons is to enhance strategies that aren't quite there yet. You know, they're not giving Tron new toys. You know, they're not giving Prowess new toys. They already have plenty of toys. But, you know, they're giving Merfolk new cards, and they're giving, Goblins new cards, and they're giving Storm new cards. And today seemed to be Enchantress Day. And I've played Enchantress in Legacy, and somebody on Twitter earlier was having a conversation with me about how viable Enchantress was going to be. And we were comparing all of the things that aren't quite in Modern yet. We were making this list. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, we don't have Wild Growth, and we don't have Elephant Grass, and we don't have Sarah's Sanctum. But we do have Sarah's Sanctum. Our preview card is Sanctum Weaver. So Sanctum Weaver is a 1 colorless and a green. She's an enchantment creature dryad. So she herself is an enchantment. She's 0 power, 2 toughness. You can tap her to add X mana of any 1 color, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Sarah's Sanctum used to just give you crummy old white mana. Oh no. You can choose the mana color that you make. And so if that's the thing that's holding you back, well, we're one step closer to Enchantress possibly being viable in Modern, and I will absolutely be there.
Yeah, this card, turns on itself, quote unquote, but what you need are all the different pieces to fire at the right time. If you look here, I'll leave the preview up for a few minutes, but they had a ton of awesome new options that you get to use with Enchantress. Mirari's Wake finally shows up in Modern, which is sweet. The seals come back, which is awesome. There's plenty of tools that you now have to draw cards, make mana, protect yourself with Solitary Confinement that allows you to say the Enchantress deck might actually possibly get there.
Sterling Grove was given to us as well. That was famously only in Legacy 2. And so they're giving us Enchantress's presence as well. And so it's obvious that Wizards wants this to be a thing. And I'm not a deck builder, but I'm certainly going to keep an eye on the experts. And I'd be happy if this was even just like a tier 2 deck, but right now it's not even like remotely possible or viable. Yeah. So let's just get it on the map. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, they did give us, Solitary Confinement is a huge piece.
Huge.
And then they also gave us Sterling Grove to search for and protect Solitary. Right. Then we needed a squee thing of some kind to be able to live, or either that or a presence. And they did give us a presence, but then they also gave us a new squee kind of thing. So there's a lot of ways for Enchantress to work. We still don't have Wild Growth. We have Utopia Sprawl. We still don't have Elephant Grass. We have Ghostly Prison. But it's the power level is powered down enough in Modern from Legacy that it maybe it could work.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, this is one of those pieces
this certainly helps.
Right. This is one of the things that get you excited about an Enchantress type deck because it scales with all of your enchantments, which makes it even more exciting, particularly when you can start drawing cards and doing stuff and bouncing creatures and making extra mana and making 1/1s or whatever it is you want to do with all of your cool enchantments. Thanks, obviously, Wizards, for our awesome preview card.
Yes, thank you so much.
We do appreciate it.
This is also really necessary fixing in my cards Reuben Bressler has helped spoil deck. Most of which are giant green creatures. So this is a good thing to have on turn 2.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I will be assisting in the reveal of a card on Tuesday. Right. So keep your eyes peeled for my social media. It's not going to be my card specifically, but I'm helping Wizards out. So hopefully it goes over well. I'm pretty excited about it.
Very nice. All right. So there you go. There was our exclusive preview, Sanctum Weaver. Once again, that was awesome. So we wanted to go over some of our favorite cards that have been previewed. Last week we kind of went over everything because it's kind of all we kind of had. Slow news week. A little bit more going on this week, which is nice. But we do want to talk about 3 different cards from each of us. The first one I'm going to talk about, which, of course, I can't get excited about anything without being shot down over it. It's whatever. Which is Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, which I love. I think this is one of the best 1-drops of all time. It's arguably one of the best 1-drops of all time. Maybe it's not as good as I'm reading it, but Lord God, look at this card. Ragavan Nimble Pilferer is 1 red mana for a 2/1 mythic legendary monkey pirate. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, but we ain't done. It also has dash of a red and a generic mana. You may cast this spell for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste and it's returned to the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. This thing does everything.
Yeah. It is also very cute, which is
very cute.
An important part of the card. This is probably the best red 1-drop without haste that's ever been printed. And it's in the argument with things like Goblin Guide and Monastery Swiftspear. It depends on what you're trying to do, right?
Fair.
This is very good in a deck that's trying to cast, Glory Bringers, and probably better than a Goblin Guide or than a Monastery Swiftspear in a deck that's trying to play 5-mana dragons with haste, right?
Right.
So I think that, this card is unbelievable value. We've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, on rate, this thing is just,
It's insane.
Yeah, it's not always going to hit your opponent, and they're not always going to get a treasure token or the top card of their library. But, I mean, if you do, we've seen how good Robber of the Rich already is, how bad it feels when they get one of your cards to start with. This one gives you mana, too.
Right. This one lets you cast Liliana of the Veil on turn 2.
And that's amazing. I don't know how else to say it. My second card I want to talk about, they previewed today and checked off as a... pseudo like what I wanted them to put in Modern Horizons 2.
I count it.
A similar effect.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Solitude. This is going to be one of the very, very expensive cards alongside other very, very expensive cards. Solitude, ladies and gentlemen, is the Mythic Elemental for white. 2 white, 3 generic mana for a 3/2 Mythic Elemental Incarnation with Flash and Lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power, aka Swords to Plowshares, and you evoke it by exiling a white card from your hand for free until the end of modern times, basically. We now have, whenever there's a dorky creature plus stupid thing that breaks it, we now have the way to interrupt it actively from here on out.
Wow.
Game changer.
This card is absolutely a game changer. This card is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the blue one, Subtlety, is good, and it's like a remand kind. It's like an Unsubstantiate, and then the black one, of course, is like an Unmask, also very good.
Right.
This one is the first one in really that feels like it's replacing 1-for-1 an iconic card, right? Like, the Unmask is close to Unmask. The Remand is close to Remand or Unsubstantiate or whatever. Right. This is Swords to Plowshares, period. This is what the card is, and it's the only one in Modern. So this is huge, and I'm so glad they gave White an actual Magic card. Right? Instead of the Shaft, like they oftentimes get.
Yeah,
like
seriously.
They put Sarah's Sanctum in green, so they had to give him something.
And you have to recall, this is a flash lifelink 3/2 that can be blinked. It can be returned to hand and played again. You can ephemerate it all you want. Like the new sword, the new green-white sword is amazing with this thing. There's plenty of ways of once you just cast it, it's still great value. And it was interesting to me to hear them talk about on the weekly MTG stream about how they really worked with the numbers and should it be 4 mana, should it be 5 mana, should it be 3 power or 2 power, that type of stuff. And just the card is just a knockout. I can't stand how awesome this thing is and how powerful it is in the color that loves to blink things. And lastly here, for my number 3, well, of course, Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Yep, Sinapudabop.
Work on it.
Yep, so for those who don't know, Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar was a famous character back from Alpha and has some weird backstory. What was his backstory about cooking food for a demon?
So she was a wizard and a cook in Dominaria. Okay. She summoned a Lord of the Pit, but eventually she ran out of food, so she made a deal with... And the demon's name is Vincent. This is canon, by the way. Yeah. So her and Vincent made a deal where she would cook for him for 7 years and 7 nights. And towards the end of her tenure, Vincent was very sad to see her go and basically offered her a full-time job in hell, to which she said, I'd really like to go. And so Vincent was like, okay, well, I'm going to make a book of all your recipes. She tried selling the book. The only 2 people who bought the book were like her and her mom. So she ordered her imps to get rid of the book, but they did a really bad job. Yep. And so everyday layman's had picked up her book and tried cooking with it. And it's just the most ridiculous, lovable, and it's just so good. And I just read it so many times.
The magic story at the very beginning was very, you look back on it and you're like, what is happening?
Vincent the Demon.
Yeah. Vincent the Demon. Yeah. Garth One Eye is, his whole shtick was casting spells that identically resemble magic cards. So he would be like, I summon a beast and attack you with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't really translate to novel form.
Right.
So
Vincent the Demon, like Craig the Imp. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever.
And then as you do, when you're like a paper boy and you don't really want to deliver the paper, so you just throw it in like a a garbage disposal that's near your house. That's what they did with the Underworld cookbook. Because they were just like, I don't actually want to get rid of these. So I just think it's
well, it's a very Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar type of thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, that's how it rolls.
And they're printing the Underworld cookbook, which makes the food and discards cards so you can cast
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar. And they even printed some supplemental cards. Chef's Kiss features this character. There's another card, I believe, that's like something taste, like discerning taste or disgusting taste or something. So there's a couple cards. I mean, this card is just dripping with flavor, no pun intended. But I would absolutely love to see this card in EDH. I think it's glorious.
I mean, you have to make someone pronounce it as many times as you possibly can.
Right. And just the art is just so full of Easter eggs. You know, you have the, scorpion cakes that are happening. You have the weird sort of clear wall that clearly shows that you're in hell with like the shades or whatever. It's so good.
All right. Erin, what's your first card?
So the first card that I'm really excited about, so I've made it very clear I love broken things. We've not received any new dredge cards yet. I doubt that we're going to, but Wizards has blessed us with a number of storm cards. And so the first card that I'm really excited about is Aeve, or Eve, Progenitor Ooze. So Eve is 2 colorless and 3 green. They are a legendary creature Ooze with 2 power, 2 toughness, and storm. Eve is not legendary if it's a token, and it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other Ooze you control. So they're giving us Green Storm or even like Gruul Storm, and I'm completely here for it. And so this is a card I would absolutely play with, either in Constructed or Commander, and I can't wait to see how many Oozes I get to make.
Ooze the man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ooze your daddy.
Oh,
Eva is a really funny
More like Ooze
name.
that girl.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also put it on a creature, which is super interesting. I mean, we've had Storm Entity, we've had things kind of like
that,
but not really like this. And also, this makes, what is it? Is it a 2/2, a 3/3, a 4/4, a 5/5, and then like the card is a 6/6,
yes,
or whatever.
Right.
So it's you just get a million creatures, which is super dope.
Right, you get a bunch of creatures, you get a bunch of counters, you get a giant army out of nowhere. Like, this thing, it's weird. Like, I am excited, but I'm also terrified pretty strongly by all the storm going on in this set. And I just have faith they didn't go too nuts.
I think it's fine. You've always been a little bit nervous about Storm.
My Storm in Walmart.
If you want to talk about things getting nuts, we're gonna have to wait for my picks.
Oh jeez. And see, I disagree.
I'm glad you picked up
I would
on that.
rather have kids learn about Storm at Walmart than learn about it on the streets.
That's
you know
true.
What I'm saying?
Yeah, you want to have them learn about Storm at home in a safe environment.
Right.
Son,
why are you playing My Desire? I learned it from watching you.
That's
all right.
Exactly.
Aaron, what's your number 2?
Knock before you come in.
So the second card is more along my brand. This is a card that was just revealed this morning. It's obvious that Wizards wants Reanimator to be a thing of some kind. And so people had speculated as to what exactly they were going to give us. Because they released that Fell Priest, and that's cute, but I'm not paying 2 mana, hoping to God something doesn't die, and then getting all those stars to land. I'm not doing that. Well, today they revealed Persist, which is 1 colorless and a black. It's a sorcery. Target a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard, return it to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. So we kind of thought they were going to go in this direction, especially when we saw the Fixed Entomb that had the non-legendary wording on it as well. And that still leaves you a long list of potential targets. If you go back and look at the history of Reanimator decks, they've played Sphinx of the Steel Wind, they've played Inkwell Leviathan, they've played Ashen Rider, they've played Grave Titan. You don't even have to go that hard. Like, sometimes just a turn 2 Chancellor of the Annex giving everything a force spike, that can sometimes win you the game. So I'm really, really excited about this. I think the thing that's going to make or break this for me is what the discard outlets look like. Because so far, all of the discard outlets we've seen have been at least 2 mana, and then you have to pay just to discard. And so that's not going to work. So we need like a Putrid Imp. Some people did the number crunching. They don't think Careful Study is going to happen. So if we get a good 1 mana discard outlet, I think this could absolutely be a thing.
Yeah. I mean, you've got you've got, Haggle.
Haggle for Merchant of the Veil.
I guess what you can do. And, you've also got we've got Sire of Stagnation or Sire of Insanity, whatever that card is. It makes them discard their hand on turn 1. Or turn 2. That would be my favorite target, I think, for Modern. I mean, this card's insane. I didn't think that they were going to give us this. I honestly didn't. And when you guys were talking about it during the recording of, like, Animate Dead, Reanimate, I'm like, okay, kids, let's And then they give us this amazing Shadowmoor art, which is my favorite part of this card.
It's really terrific.
I am so happy that they gave us these creepy pupilless Kithkin again, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I hope they don't forget about the Kithkin. This is also a trend. There's also Suspend in the set that mirrors Suspend as a mechanic. Persist is what Persist does, bringing creatures back with minus counters on them. Like, that was super brilliant. I love that.
What else could they do? Overload. They could print a card called Over. No, I think there already is a card called Overload.
I think there might be, right.
But yeah, I mean,
not all mechanics. They can't make a card called Bushido. Like, it's not going to make any sense, but it's fine.
They can't make a card called Kicker. Probably not going to make it into the set. But I do like this concept. It's very simple. I mean, there wasn't a card named Persist. There was an ability named Persist. Let's use it on a card that gives it a Persist-like ability. I love it.
Right, because they only have so many opportunities to use those very special, unique names for Magic cards. So what's your number 3, Erin?
So my last card really, really got people talking and could potentially have implications going all the way up the top of the ladder to Vintage. My third card is Void Mirror. So Void Mirror is 2 colorless. It's an artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, including you, if no colored mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So this turns off any colorless strategies, such as Workshops, Eldrazi-tron, Force of Wills, Force of Vigors, Unmask, Daze, unless you pay the 2 for Daze, but who's doing that? And so this could be a very, very powerful... I've seen a lot of speculation as to how many of this you should run, what decks are going to want this. I think it's going to be fine. I mean, we've seen a lot of cards that have supposedly been the death of formats. I remember when Lavinia came out in Vintage, people thought that was going to be the end of the world, and it's fine. We heard the same thing about Hull Breacher, and we've survived Chalice, and we've survived Trinisphere, and so I think it's going to be something annoying that you'll have to worry about, but I don't think it's going to see so much play that formats are just going to sort of collapse.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this card is fine. Like, I'm not totally worried about this card. It definitely is Tron hate. It definitely is Shops hate. And there's some residual hate that you're going to have with your Force of Wills and your Dazes, but I think you're going to play this in your Force of Wills deck, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it gets so many weird random things. Like, it gets the forces, it gets the new elementals. Like, anything where you're skipping on the mana cost, like, gotcha, you played that colored mana. So you have the ability to, I mean, people were just, Chicken Little, this was the end of Tron, and no more colorless decks in the world ever. And I'm like...
As if we don't play Ancient Grudge. And you've never seen an artifact hate card before.
Yeah, I had a number of people even tag me in it, and they were just like, "You're R.I.P. Dredge," and I'm just like, I run Force of Wills too. Like,
right. Also, that's a nice 2-mana artifact you have. Put my Icarid into play, get my Cabal Therapy countered, make 4 zombies, bring back all of my Bloodghast and prized amalgams.
For my spells? Like,
you think I'm casting spells?
Get
like, what world are you on?
Are you new here? Like, are we done? What's going on here?
Also, Conflagrate you doesn't get countered, so I don't see what the problem is. But yeah, I mean, it is, and also, not for nothing, this counters Grafdigger's Cages and Tormod's Crypts and Null Rods and a lot of other of the hate cards that exist. I just think this card's very good. Yeah. It's going to be very good. Don't get me wrong.
I think
it's not going to break.
Yeah, I think the first couple weeks of the older formats are going to be a little pesky because everybody's going to try it, so you'll have to be prepared for that. But, once the baby kind of cries itself out, you should be fine. Like,
there's just such a long, illustrious line of 2-mana cards with rude text on them, and 2-mana cards with rude text on them can be solved. I really don't care what they say on them at this point.
And this doesn't remove your graveyard when it comes into play. Like, rest in peace.
Like,
it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It does nothing.
Yeah.
All right, Reuben, what's your first card?
Oh, hey, everybody. It's my turn to talk about Magic cards, and the first one I want to talk about is a 1/1 for 1 that's a human. Because that is what I do when I want to play Magic the Gathering, is I tap lands and cast creatures with those lands. Unlike some people, I am going to start by talking about Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel is a 1/1 for a white mana, artifact creature, human for some reason, soldier.
What?
Because when you look at Esper Sentinel, you go, that looks like a human.
There is a human under there.
Okay. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. This card is going to be very good in Modern Humans, obviously. It's also going to be an EDH card.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
This is
EDH
another-
super staple.
Yeah.
This is another Smothering Tide. This is another Monologue Tax. Another of those effects. And it's more card draw in white. And oh, by the way, probably the best card draw in white.
In a long time.
It's 1 white mana to get this into play. Your Thalia's Lieutenant on turn 2 means that you're drawing a card on your opponent's turn every turn. Like, this card is insane.
Yeah, this card is bananas in how they kind of pushed it. Again, artifact creature, human soldier. I'm like,
Yeah.
really, Wizards? Were you really okay?
But
all
this
right.
is what people wanted. You know,
Sure.
there's been such an outcry for white to get good cards, and specifically card draw in Commander. And you know, we had Secret Rendezvous, which was cute, and I've certainly cast it a couple times. But you know, people were still asking for more, and they did listen. And this is amazing card draw. This is going to cost probably a lot of money because this is already a set with a very limited print run, and so you know, there's probably not going to be that many out there. And everybody's going to want this, and so I imagine this being quite expensive.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, well, there's the need for Magic cards is great, and Wizards does not make enough product. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why. I just wish they would make more of the stuff because we don't have enough, and the prices are going bananas.
yeah.
Somebody in chat is saying that Forsyth said that it's print to demand. Is that going to
He did mention that earlier, and Modern Horizons was as well. And the prices for Modern Horizons did start out completely loopy and did come back, you know, to earth about 4 to 5 months later. So you'll see some of that here. But a lot of these cards feel even more pushed than some of the Modern Horizons stuff, you know, 1.0
Last
did.
time, yeah.
And like all of the mythics are insane, and all of these things are sweet.
Not for nothing, but shipping is still boned from the
yeah.
last year and a half. So even if it's print to demand, that doesn't equate to ship to demand.
Yeah.
Right.
So the prices are going to be wonky for the rest of the year, even if they print to demand.
Right. So, and again, the cards are highly sought after, and these cards are great in Commander. They're also great in competitive formats, which are just coming back, so people want some competitive cards. I mean, this is great for the vendors who can open lots of boxes and whatnot, but even then, you can't always get the amount of boxes you want when they just keep squeezing the supply over and over and over again, and that sucks. Reuben, what's number 2?
It's time to talk about squirrels now.
It's time.
Because I love
Come on
squirrels,
now.
and they're great. And there was a whole day that was nothing but squirrels, and I was just giggling like a little boy the whole time they were showing off squirrel cards. And I was just so happy. And the king squirrel is Chatterfang Squirrel General.
Jeez.
He's a 3/3 for 3 legendary creature, Squirrel Warrior. That's right, Squirrel Warrior with Forest Walk. Yeah, remember Walk? If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. And it has a black activated ability of pay a black and sacrifice X squirrels. Target creature gets +X, -X until end of turn.
Wow.
I mean, this card's great. This card's really cool. And it's like a doubling season-ish kind of effect without being a doubling season effect. It's what you want to be doing.
It's definitely a Squarrior.
It's a Squarrior.
It's a Squarrior.
I love that.
I know, right? And like the ability to sacrifice multiple creatures that are squirrels, maybe changelings, for example, you can go nuts with. You can sacrifice lots of creatures at once, which gives you lots of triggers of various things. I mean, they mentioned at one point that the FFL, the Future League they have, at one point Squirrels was the best deck in Modern. And I'm
love
like,
it.
can I live in that world? Can I live in the world where
that
Squirrels
world,
is the
too.
best deck in Modern?
Yeah, that sounds like a world I want to live in. I'm very pleased that Wizards, there was a long time, 10 years, 15 years maybe, where they just didn't print squirrels because they were too kitschy.
Yeah,
and now
like-
they've printed Empty the Squirrel Warrens and a uncommon squirrel lord noble and a Squarrior.
And it's great.
I like this world better.
And it's fantastic, and we begged them for it.
Yeah. I like this just because it is my goal to make an Aristocrats deck in EDH in every color. And so I have my mono red Aristocrats. I have my mono black Aristocrats. Yes, I will absolutely make a Squirrel Aristocrats deck.
Squirrel Aristocrats.
Squirrel
I
Aristocrats.
love it.
I love
All
it.
right. And what's your last pick here?
So you talked about the red 1-drop that is going to get the headlines, and it's probably the best red 1-drop from a regular deck building angle. right? Like normal decks that cast a 2-drop on turn 2, a 3-drop on turn 3, and then you top off with like a dragon. Ragavan is going to be better in those decks. But the decks that exist in Modern already, like Burn and Prowess, are much more excited for Dragon's Rage Channeler. Dragon's Rage Channeler is an uncommon. It's a human shaman for a red mana. And when you cast a non-creature spell, look at that portion of a sentence. That phrase should be setting off alarm bells. Surveil 1, which means you look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. And it has Delirium. As long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, Dragon's Rage Channeler gets +2/+2, has flying, and attacks each combat if able.
Oof.
This is a Delver of Secrets, is what this card is, right? It's a Delver that's good in Modern, because it's much easier to flip this, quote-unquote, than it is to flip a Delver in Modern. You're already playing all your bolts and all your, instants and sorceries. It's very easy to just put Mishra's Baubles in that deck. I think that they already do in Prowess. And then you've got Artifact, Land, Instant, Sorcery, and then this is just a 3/3 flying that attacks every turn. This card's very, very, very good.
This card, like, the way it fuels itself kind of just scares me a little bit. It's like, oh, that's an artifact creature. All right, 2 types right there. You're halfway home, and then you play almost anything else, and zoom, it's a 3/3
This
flyer.
card could just say mill 1. Because I think 90% of the time you're just milling one until you grow it up big enough, and then you're like, all right, we'll keep a burn spell on top, I guess. But yeah, I mean, this thing is just insanely good.
Yeah, I mean, 1 mana Delirium Enablers are, that's a heck of a Magic card, as it turns out. We're going to move on here to Gathering the Townsfolk. We more or less spoke of a lot of the Modern Horizons stuff happening. One of the things that they pointed out, which I kind of can't get over now that we're kind of seeing the whole scope of it, which is the Modern Horizons 1 cards, the throwbacks, the old frame MH1 cards are only an etched foil or foil. There is no non-foil Modern Horizons 1 cards. They're only in collector packs, and they're only foiled. And that just seems weird. Like such a weird way to, not figure out what we would like or no. But at the same time, they had mentioned that they make these decisions way, way ahead. This was, just after Time Spiral Remastered. They decided to do it again for Modern Horizons 2. They're not doing any more of the old spells in different sets. They said for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, putting whatever you want in old frame, I just love it to death. I don't really care. So I agree that was a weird mistake to only make those foil only, but okay.
If it's what we got, it's what we got. I mean, hopefully they'll realize that people want non-foils and that they'll put them in something else later. But, it's feedback they needed to get, and now they've gotten it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that they're like, we're not going to make a Black Lotus token, which was also kind of unfortunate. Wizards.
You feel really strongly about that.
I just look. You got to come up with a better excuse other than people will get confused when you make these booster packs with 47 different ways to get cards in them, and you say Magic players are smart, but suddenly we're going to be like, what's a token Magic card? Yeah. Does it say Lotus on it?
The good news
is this a real Lotus? What is wrong with you? That is weird. I don't get it. I don't get that thinking.
I am seeing buy it now prices for the Duel Masters Black Lotus for $80. Which is what I assume people are going to use as the tokens for Garth One-Eye. So
I mean, maybe we'll see.
Garth is pre-ordering for $30 to $40 right now, which is wild.
Yeah. You ever cast a Black Lotus?
Yes, I have cast a Black Lotus.
Oh, you did.
I have.
Well,
I've held one in my hands.
Some of us ain't part of the bourgeoisie. Some of us in the proletariat also want to feel that someday, and now we can, thanks to Garth.
One of these days. There you go. All right, let's move on here to some desperate ravings. The Drizzt Duerden art sold for $155,000.
Yeah,
I told you. Told you that character was popular.
I was not ready for that. That was incredible.
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. Somebody had posted a tweet the other day that was talking about the going rate for illustrations for various games. And I think Fantasy Flight Games was at the low end of the spectrum along with Paizo. And Wizards, assuming this tweet is correct, said that the range per card was $1,000 to $3,000 per card. That doesn't seem like a lot. That's also not the right image, by the way. But that's one of the images.
This is for the $155,000
right.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound like a lot. $1,000 to $3,000 per card. And the normal things that artists would have to supplement their income, like prints and playmats, there's no events right now. There's no signings or anything like that happening. So if somebody's going to get, $125,000 for an art print, I'm fine with that. Like, let them get that. They deserve that.
Absolutely, yeah. And particularly for Drizzt Do'Urden, of course, who is, an iconic character from novels going decades back, and other characters from the D&D realm from when all those characters are going to have big paydays for the artists. This is part of the reason why a lot of the artists that only work in digital have started moving to oils and started moving back to acrylic so that they can say, they can sell the rights to the art and they can make all of their money from, their visits, but they can also make $100,000 by selling an 18 by 24 original, which is great. It's perfect. I love it. And
then part of it just says that Fantasy Flight is like that's horrendously low. Like,
look,
that's
whatever, man.
You're in poverty wages after a while if you're just getting $100 in illustration to the level that they require. But when you're back up to $1,000 to $3,000 per card for Wizards, the Wizards also gives you the ability to sell prints, which will be important when we get events back. They allow you to sell playmats as long as you go through Ultra Pro.
Yep.
So there is some flexibility there. It's not just like, here's your check, it's the last thing you're going to see of this. It's if it's a popular character, you could be signing that card for years. Those prints could work out for you for a long time. You can create your own Kickstarter around these playmats that you have from the artworks that you've made. Lots of options for artists.
There are options, but I do feel like there is still a bit of luck involved, because if you happen to get a card that isn't popular and that doesn't see competitive play, no one's really going to care about that, and you may not be able to flip those prints and those playmats into money, or if there's no events, or maybe if you just don't have the acumen. Like, I don't think being an artist necessarily prepares one for being a business person. Right. And I think even Vorthos Mike has talked about that, about how, a lot of artists out there may not know how to brand themselves or promote themselves. Like, that's not something you're sort of born knowing. And so there is certainly an element of luck to this, I think. And, some additional context is the Jason Felix thing, the poor guy who copied someone's homework. If he's not getting very much and he has to supplement it with all these side products, and he's working hard, and he just gets exhausted and copies someone else's art. Like, I'm not saying it's okay, but like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, $1,000 to $3,000 for a piece of Magic the Gathering art, at first blush, that feels low to me, and I think it feels low to all of us. But also, $1,000 for a piece of art when you are a professional artist, that's a good payday usually. And also, think about how many pieces of art Wizards is buying every year. Like,
it's a lot.
How many? 6,000 individual pieces of art, at least, when you think about different prints of different cards, different sets coming out.
We're in the 400 or 500-ish almost.
That's paying $6 million in my simple napkin math.
Sure.
It's probably more.
It adds up really, really fast, is essentially. And things differ, whether you're doing a Planeswalker or just some weird little common or whatever, depending on how long you've been working for them. There's lots of different ways that can be sliced and diced.
They also still don't necessarily tell them that their card's coming out. I got a chance to hang out with Aaron Miller the other day, and that was something I had heard about, and I got the chance to ask him, and I was like, do you know when the cards that you've painted are coming out? And he's like, no. He's like, I know when you know. So going back to Vorthos Mike does this thing which he'll if somebody previews a card, one of the first things he'll do is he will reply to it and tag the artist, because otherwise they may not know. Like, it's,
which, by the way, our piece, our Sylvan, what's that called? Sylvan
Sanctum Weaver?
Sanctum Weaver, that's the one. Was done by Kimonas Theodosio, who did the most recent Devoted.
Should have let Evan say that. Evan, how's that go?
Yeah,
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Also, probably best known for doing Mo-Woo, Loyal Companion.
Hey, Mo-Woo.
Did that art as well. So just shouting that out. Wanted to make sure that made it into the podcast.
Sure. I mean, and there was, this tweet from Kate Welch who did the Lolth Spider Queen. And she's
she didn't do it. She posed for it, I think.
Oh, she posed for it. Fair enough. Oh, and then, and she apparently has the painting itself.
Original, yeah.
Right, so you think to yourself, man, what would that have actually sold for?
Right.
If Drizzt, that guy sold for $1 bajillion.
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar. Wait, why does she get to keep it?
Because she posed for it, and she works for D&D. She's a D&D designer, and she is friends with Tyler Jacobson, and she posed for the art, and I think she's keeping the original. Is how it works. I think. Again, that's the impression that I'm getting. Don't quote me on that.
Okay, yeah, I don't see anything about her posing for it, but she does mention that she was the.
If it's
I am the demon spider guy. I guess maybe they're together. I'm not sure.
Maybe, I don't know. Either way, it's just one of those things where they're not going to sell the artwork, and you go, "Did you see what the other one sold for?" Because
take the money.
So this is super cool. This is also a bit spoilery in some ways, but I don't care. I like to know everything as soon as possible. The idea that we now know what they're going to do for the Mirror event in early July. This was data mined from Arena.
Right.
If you want to be totally surprised, I
was going to say,
go nuts.
Before we go into this is not spoilers. I don't feel like this is spoilers. Because we have a policy on Magic Mics, we don't talk about spoilers.
Right, like somebody broke into the factory and took a picture of the rare sheet or whatever. Right. That's not really what this is.
This is breaking into
which I find
digital
so funny
code.
Because I seem to recall doing. I will never forget our live show in Vegas where I was the one arguing that we shouldn't be covering leaks, and we've come a long way.
Look, man, people grow and change. Right. So anyway, here we are.
We've grown and changed to the point where we're putting a big warning on what we're about to talk about, because if you want to be surprised, you can be. I don't think this is that scandalous or anything. I think it's really cool. The idea that we know what they're going to do for the Mirror event in July. This is where they digitally change cards that are broken, busted, banned, and historic and kind of fix them. And see if they can fix them. So, and here's like the raw data or whatever. But the point is that the first change is Agent of Treachery, who now has to be cast from hand.
Great change.
Makes sense.
That's great. The Winona thing, Winona gets powered down big time thanks to that change.
It's not even that big. Winona, the deck gets powered down.
Yes,
Winona,
the deck.
The card, I
also
feel like
it
gets powered down a little bit. I don't feel like that change is that big, but also is fine.
Yeah, this one, the ability for it to just kind of like show up out of nowhere, ultimatums or whatever, this thing could just ruin your day. The fact you have to cast it, I love that change.
Agent of Treachery is a great change, yeah.
Field of the Dead now being legendary, and the zombies enter the battlefield tapped. I think that's also great, because you can just get buried in Field of the Dead advantage,
Right.
It was gross. Fires of Invention goes from 3 in a red to 3 and 2 red, so 5 mana.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sounds great. I'm on board.
You got to untap with it again, yada yada. Nexus of Fate doesn't shuffle itself anymore; it just exiles itself. Basically, it's a 7 mana instant time walk.
Yeah,
that exiles.
This is what it probably should have been printed as anyway.
Probably. I mean, they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Yeah,
and that's exactly why we're here doing this.
Right.
Oko Thief of Crowns. Here we go. This was the big one.
Yeah, they really were dying on the hill of leaving this at 3 mana.
They were. They wanted this to be a 3 mana, and I'm okay with that. The first ability goes to +1, so instead of +2 make a food token, it's +1 make a food token. And now it's -2 loyalty to turn something into a 3/3 elk instead of +1, which was the stupidest thing ever.
Sure.
As far as I know, all the other numbers stay the same, which is cool. Omnath, Logos of Creation, no longer draws a card when it enters the battlefield. It just scries 1.
Sure. Fine. Whatever.
It's fine.
Probably not going to aid, I don't think that fixes what Omnath is.
I think the problem was the landfall text, not that you drew a card when it entered the battlefield
That's the
text.
tip of the iceberg.
Right. I mean, replacing itself is annoying, but I feel like the play pattern with Omnath was the problem.
Was seriously an issue, and could still be. Once Upon a Time now costs 1 generic mana instead of 0 when it's the first spell of the game.
Okay. Free spells are broken.
Fair. Yes, free spells are busted.
Teferi
Time Raveler to a white, a blue, and 2 generic mana instead of a white, a blue,
I've
and a
got
generic.
a Teferi joke.
Okay.
We went from ooh-woo to 2-woo.
2-woo.
You're
I
welcome.
saw what you
Good
did
job.
there. Thank you. From Uwu to Tuwu it goes. Like, that's a card
that's
that...
fine.
I'm
4
fine with
mana
it.
for that's fine.
I loved this card, for what
Card's
it
great.
was. And
I hate this card.
And that's cool. This is a good example of the, every card is someone's favorite. Every card is the reason that somebody plays Magic. This is one of the reasons I loved Magic for a minute was to Fairy Time Rattler. It was an incredible card. I didn't say it was fair. It was an incredible card. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, no longer allows you to put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield.
From 2 woe to Uro.
That's weird. I feel like that is...
Gain 3 life, draw a card, the end.
Yeah, I don't see what is blue-green about gain 3 life.
It's green. Green's gain life, 4 Spring of
Yeah,
Life,
I
and
get
whatever.
it, but I don't know, man. I feel like that.
Thragtusk gains life. All that stuff.
Okay, all right, fine.
But that's what they're changing on it. And
Yeah,
Veil
I
of
get it.
Summer now costs a green and a generic mana instead of just a green mana.
Sure.
Wilderness Reclamation, hilarious change.
Yeah.
Only untaps 2 lands.
This
instead
is the
of all.
stupidest
Wow.
one. This is so stupid.
This is the, you said you wanted to play with it change. They were like,
This card is unplayable.
this card is unplayable trash. I don't know if it could untap 4 lands and we'd still care, honestly.
4 lands would be good. 4 lands
has
would be
to-
what it should be.
It has to untap a lot to make it matter, and 2 is not
2
a
is
lot.
not enough. 4 lands, because it costs 4, I think makes sense.
Yeah. And the last change here, Winota Joiner of Forces looks at the top 4 cards instead of the top 6 cards.
Right. Yeah,
of
that's
your
fine.
library. And that's the change. And that's what they've done to the
That's a good
format.
one. Most of them are fine. I think it's going to be an interesting event that, a fraction of the people that actually play Historic are going to play because it's not the ladder, right?
Sure.
It's not, there's no reason to play the event other than to get the 3, alternate frames for whatever cards you're getting.
Sure.
But
it's still fun.
It's still fun, and it's still a really good thought exercise, and I'm glad that Wizards is at least, making the effort to go back and visit these old design mistakes.
Yeah, I have begged Wizards to do this for years. I am so excited. I don't give a damn about these weird constructs that you put up for yourself, Wizards. They're only there because you put them there. This is going to be cool. No one's going to get confused like they would with a Black Lotus token. Ah!
Okay.
I'm dying on that hill. The point is, this is silly and fun, and I love it. And now you guys can talk to me about the hot tubs and Twitch. Do we need to do this in a hot tub? Is that what you're saying to me?
We
So I
need
gotta
to,
go.
what we need
find
to
a
do
hot
with this
tub?
podcast is get some sort of
Oh,
hot tub
geez.
time
So there's
machine.
been a lot of consternation lately over what's called hot tub streams, where players, predominantly women, have been doing these streams where they will play in a shallow pool or they'll play in a hot tub, and they'll be playing in their swimsuits. And the usual sort of pearl clutching happened about that of, won't someone think of the children? And so eventually it got loud enough to where Twitch has decided that they're going to not only allow these streams, but give them their own separate classification. And so that, hot tub streams are officially a thing you can do. They do come with their own policies. They're very careful to note that the existence of a scantily clad body is not necessarily sexual in nature, and that it really boils down to, the way that you're portraying it and the way that you're doing it. And, it's just something that needed to happen. And they're even saying this is not the end of it, that they're still going to kind of come back to this. But they did want to, express that this is something that is allowed to exist on their platform, much to, some people's dismay.
I really liked this statement. I was very pleased with it felt like the person who was writing it was like, I can't believe I have to write this. But the existence of women being sexy is not
But they're not
for
even
your
necessarily sexy.
amusement.
It's a woman in a bathing suit. Like,
Right,
that's-
exactly.
And if you find it sexy,
And the
that's
comment of
thing.
being found to be sexy by others is not against our rules, and Twitch will not take enforcement action against women or anyone on our service for their perceived attractiveness. I just really liked how they phrased this announcement and how they decided to alter their policy without punishing anyone. And of course there's the pearl clutching and the oh woe is me, I can't believe that we live in this
I'm fine with my kid watching streams where they shoot each other in the head, but a girl in a hot tub is a bridge too far.
Well, Jinx, Yomi Coke.
Right. Well, from what I understand, they were like pulling advertising from certain channels and not communicating with those channels.
Yeah.
So that's the money. This is all about money. It always comes back to money.
Always.
This is advertisers. I'm sure that the Bud Lights of the world are happy to advertise.
Sure,
on
but
hot
the
tub
advertisers
streams.
aren't the people that we, the public, need to hear about. Our Twitter feeds are being clogged with all the pearl clutching about how this is wrong. So I'm sure that money was the motivator, but there was definitely a significant outcry from people who felt that this shouldn't be allowed, or that Twitch was somehow degrading itself or whatever. Like, that was criticism that was happening.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Twitch didn't like bow to those concern chasing what I perceive to be people who are not actually concerned and instead just want to
just mess with stuff,
virtue
mess with systems,
and
change systems because they can, and troll it because they can, and
exactly.
And see people.
Who cares? Honestly, who cares? It's like, it's literally get your bag, right? Like, do what you can to make money, do whatever you want, and just like, if Twitch is gonna be an avenue that allows for that to happen, then good. Let them be an avenue for that to happen. But pulling out the rug from people who have found a way to make money off of their particular skill set, whether that is visually or not, is not the way to go about it. And so I'm really happy that Twitch has come to this it's a very smart decision.
Yeah.
Right. All I'm saying is 20 subs and this shirt comes off. All right. I mean, we're all just.
Well, we would have
doing
to change
this.
the tag. But yes.
Also,
still no. We would need pasties.
We went from magic mics to tragic mics.
We still have male presenting nipples, so we would need to cover those.
Male presenting. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad we had that conversation. Let's move on here and turn the corner.
I'm not against doing a hot tub stream if we would get more viewers and money.
Reuben Hot Tubsler.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's whatever. I didn't say I was against it. I never said I wouldn't do it.
But like you were. But the implication was
just
that
being
it's a
silly.
joke, right?
I was just being silly.
Again, I agree with you. I'm just saying.
Y'all hate on some silliness.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying we've got untapped resources, and they're under our shirts.
I don't know. My resources
are tapped.
Right. This is not the pre-show. This is a family program. We're turning the corner to the finisher. With hundreds of new tags coming to Twitch, streamers can more specifically narrow in on their target demographics. Now, our Magic Mike's tags are clearly good, but with so many new items on the menu, we can branch out. So tell me, of the new plentiful plethora of descriptors to avail ourselves of, which would you add to our stream, Erin?
Well, we could probably get away with adding the pools, hot tubs, and beaches tag to our show. Evan loves himself a sealed pool. Reuben's been dancing under the name Hot Tub since college. And as we all know, I'm one of the beaches.
Hey.
Nice. Reuben?
Live streamed theatrical performances are picking up in popularity over time. Live reads of Shakespeare and performances of old pilot scripts are some of the new hotness here on Twitch. And with that in mind, and with how much trash we filter through week to week, I think we could definitely add the drama tag to Magic Mike streams.
We need to get the drama noise, like on the reality shows, like Drag Race, like when someone looks at you funny and you hear that, like that
or
noise.
Like that music clip that plays on TikTok when they're like, so, show me about it. Right?
What do you mean, Diane?
Yeah.
With as many options as there are on the internet, I'm glad for the specificity that's coming soon. So when the new tags drop, I'm excited to add the tags of what we end up talking about every show: hashtag politics, hashtag spoilers, and of course hashtag Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Hey.
Amazing.
There we go. I did it. I said it a lot.
And we should definitely have that tag on our stream.
Maricadaistina. I always get stuck on Daistica.
I know, right?
Asmoranomaridicadaistinaculdacar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stinaculdacar.
You're going to be saying it in your dreams. Like, you're just going to be like having a bad dream. Which just has
Maricadaistinaculdacar.
This week
can do
in
it.
Asmorando Maridicadaistinaculdacar.
What? All right. Clown car. Got it. Okay. That ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Reuben. I'm going to move here to our final slide. I'm going to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and AlterSleeves. You can use the code MagicMikes on AlterSleeves.com. My co-hosts, Erin Campbell and Reuben Bressler, you guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, our Magic Mike's subreddit, and like the Magic Mike's page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.